All right, we are going to talk assemblies, right? This is where we're going, right? So you will see, and just for right now, just watch, right? So an assembly is a collection of parts. So these individual parts that you modeled, right? We assemble them, we put them together, right? And we constrain them so they are locked into place like they would be on the actual item. And so in this case, we're doing a linear bearing. There's something that sits up here, right? And then it's going to slide on the linear rails, these being the rails, right? And then from there, right, maybe we have something that gets pushed into a machine, it does an operation, and then it retracts out, right? Some sort of little machine operation. But this is a really handy way to learn how to do Inventor assemblies. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what we're going to do is you should be at home, right? And we're going to go New Assembly. So follow along with me. So go New Assembly. Right, and we're going to open up a new blank assembly. Okay, in your assembly, the first thing you're going to do, right, is we're going to do place. Now, a few of you, right, your Inventor may default to place from Content Center, which is not what we want, okay? We want just plain old place, and I've lost my mouse. There we go, right? So we want plain old place. I'll hit cancel, right? And so with place, right, it allows you to place files. So we're going to click place. You're following along with me. And the first thing that we're going to do is plate, comma, bottom, right? So the whole thing we did with the zip file and moving those files around is so you can have all the part files, because you probably didn't get done making them all yesterday, right? So you have the ones that I have made, right? And we're going to use these, right? Notice that I've called mine with the noun first, all right? So this is plate, comma, bottom. We got block, comma, pillow instead of pillow block and bottom plate, right? When we do engineering file names, right, you always put the noun first, followed by a comma, okay? Same thing with the assemblies, right? If we have an assembly, we always say assembly, comma, whatever the assembly is, all right? And so let's grab plate, comma, bottom, so the bottom plate, and then we're going to hit open. And then we're going to have, and don't click, right? We're going to have the plate bottom attached to our mouse, right? Click one time and one time only. The reason I say click one time and one time only is every time you click, you are going to drop another plate, right? I only need one, right? And so now to exit, right click, OK. All right, now this is a little bit hard to see, right? And so we can change some of our view, right? So come up here to view, and we're going to go visual style, and then we're going to change this to shaded with edges. So view, visual style, shaded with edges, and that will add edges to us. It makes it so much easier to see. Otherwise, the whole gray on gray or gray on light blue is hard to see. So we turn that on, and then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go up here to the save icon, and we are going to click it. Right, and then that will say, we can save it as assembly, comma, linear bearing. All right, and so when you have it done, I'm not going to save it because I've already got one. Right, when you have it done, hit save. I'm going to hit cancel, but you hit save. Right, and now we have that in there. Unpause. Okay, so. Right, we've saved it, we've dropped our first file in. The other thing we have to do, all right, when we, remember how we did sketches? We always attach the sketch to the origin. We need to do something here. However, right now this plate is just floating out in space, and we don't really have anywhere good to attach it to, right? There's no real origin. I mean, there is an origin, but there's not a real easy way to attach it to the origin, right? And so what we do, right, we do this thing where we don't let it go anywhere. So what do we call it when you're in trouble with your parents because you did something stupid, right, and they don't let you go anywhere? Grounded. All right, so highlight that. You don't click, just highlight until it's green, right click, right, and then ground it. Right, and you will know that you did it right because this dot right here is going to change from a hollow circle into a full black circle, right? So right click, grounded, right? And now that is a black dot, right? And that is indicating that now this plate is locked into space. Okay, so to teach you how to do an assembly, seriously, it takes like 5 minutes. All right, it's pretty easy. Getting good at it, it takes a little bit of practice, right? So hopefully that's what we have tons of time for us to do today. All right, so for an assembly, it is a bunch of parts put together. Okay, so we're going to go to place again, right? And we are going to pick the next part, which is this shaft, guide. All right, so hit place. This dialog comes up, pick shaft, guide. You can hit open, right? And then you can click twice. If yours comes in at a funky angle, that's fine. It can be upside down, right? Right click when you're done and hit OK, but drop 2 of them there. Again, I don't care where they are. I don't care if they're overlapped. I don't care if they're upside down. All I care about is there are 2 in here. Why? Because we need 2 rails. So with assemblies, all right, you are going to be either placing or constraining 90% of the time. So it's either drop a new part in or constraining, all right, getting those parts aligned. All right, so what constrain does, and the way to think about constrain, and I'm oversimplifying this because I'm not introducing some of the other commands that are in here, right? But the idea behind this is you need to think what touches what. All right, so if I think about these rails, right, and I'm putting what do they call these? The guide shafts, right? What is going on this part? What touches this part? Right, it's the bottom, right? So when I do constraints, right, and don't try to follow along, just watch and learn real quick, please. All right, and then I will give you time to do it, right? I won't, right? When you do this, and this is super important, make certain that you're clicking surfaces, all right? You can even click a point, right, or a line, but it's best to click a surface, especially when you say, hey, I want this whole surface, and I'm going to click, right? I want this whole surface to touch that whole surface. All right, and then I want to hit apply, and that's going to do it. Okay, now look, all right, so don't try to follow along just yet. Look, I've put one constraint. I'm going to exit, right? This still moves around, right? I could have done that, and this could have been still way over here, and it could have looked like it did nothing. Okay, when you do constraints, you have to lock it down in the 3 directions. The only way that I have locked this down is if I go to my front view, right? I have basically said, hey, I'm on the same plane as the top of this plate, right? And so those are actually touching like we said it was going to touch. But if I look at it from the 3D view, right, it looks like a whole lot of nothing happened. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right, so we have to lock it in 3 different ways, all right? And so how am I going to start locking in this X and Y movement, or X and Z movement is the case it is down here, right? So how else could I lock this down? Right, what needs to touch what? Ooh, I've got screw holes. Is this how I'm going to really assemble this thing? Yeah. All right, so let's use the screw hole. All right, so let's do constrain. All right, and now this is super important. All right, you have to, I can grab that top circle. Don't do that. All right, do not do that. You want to grab the cylinder on the inside. You want that surface on the inside, right? So this surface, you know you're in the right thing if you get this axis through the middle, right? So if I'm here grabbing the edge, I get nothing. If I'm grabbing the surface of the cylinder, right, I get that axis. And that axis is basically how they're going to, I'm going to line up the axis of that hole, and I'm going to go here and click the cylinder surface, and it lines up the axis of that hole. All right? And then I hit apply. Okay, so that is lined up. That hole is lined up, right? So if I look down through that hole, it is perfectly lined up. However, I have to constrain everything 3 times. Also, what did I do? Did I get the right hole?
No.
I did not, because if I mount that now, it's going to be like this, right? That's not going to work, right? Notice, right? I've only constrained this 2 ways, and now I'm still free rotating. But notice how it's locked down, all right? So I'm going to hit Control Z, and I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to grab the right one. So I'm going to go constrain, click the cylinder surface, click the cylinder surface. Now I've got the hit apply, and then now it can still rotate, right? And then now what should I do? Do a different hole, right? And this will be the 3rd one, and you'll notice it's going to lock it down, right? So I'm going to do this hole up here with this cylindrical face here. It makes the thunk sound, and then I hit apply, and then notice, right, it's now got a black dot, meaning it's fully locked down. Notice when I pull on it, it doesn't move, okay? So let me show you a couple things, and then I'm going to let you guys work. When we do, so this was locked down. You got to go in and lock this one down. Notice that we have, if I go place, right, I've got a couple of screws. All right. So I can drop in the screws. It is extremely helpful. It is extremely helpful with the screws that one of the constraints that you do is the bottom of the head to wherever you're attaching it to. A lot of people say, hey, I'm going to pick the bottom of this, right? And it's going to go all the way to the bottom of this hole, but that's not how screws work, right? I'm going to tighten that screw until the bottom of this head touches, in this case, probably this, right? This surface here, and then the thread, when I thread it in, it tightens down. So the underside of this head, right, is going to go to the top of this, all right? So be sure to constrain it to the right thing. The other thing is, do you think I modeled this? No, right? Mr. D has better things to do with his time than to sit around and model screws and bolts, okay? Somebody somewhere on every nut, bolt, screw, clip, anything that's hardware, right? Somebody has modeled it, right? And we can go out to, not that one. We can go out to here. This is when we did the download, right? Here is McMaster car, right? And if you will forget that it is McMaster.com, right? But if you just say, hey, Mr. D, where do I download bolts again? I'll tell you, right? But we can go in here and say, hey, I need a 1024, right? So I can go 1024 screws. I need a socket head screw. I need it made out of steel. I need it 1/2 inch long. Where's 1/2 inch? There's 1/2 inch, right? Click on the number, right? And then it says right here, hey, CAD, right? And so I can say, hey, I need a step file, which is what I need, and I tell it no threads. You can do threads, you can do 3D step, has threads. No threads is a little bit simpler, it doesn't show the threads. Download it, right, and then I just open up right? And I open it up in Inventor, and then I have the part file. Okay, so don't model bolts, threads, or nuts, washers, right? Down those from somebody else. All right. So you guys, right? Take the time we have and start putting this together. We'll practice it tomorrow. I think we'll continue practicing it tomorrow. Save however far you get, but you're going, right? You're aiming for this, right? I got screws. The 3/8 screws go in this one. The 1/2 inch long screws go in this in this side. Screw it down, tighten it down, get it all assembled, right? The screws, right? When it's all said and done, the screws will turn. You won't get a black dot next to the screws because I don't take the time to lock down the screws from turning. So I do the hull and then I do the underside of the head, and then I call that good enough. Questions?